Hi everybody, welcome back to Insight. So today I'm going to do something fun. Recently I made this little decoration, or really it's a logo, a 3D printed logo for my friend. And it occurred to me that this would be a great little project for the holidays because you can use the same techniques to make Christmas ornaments or Hanukkah decorations. And this is a really simple technique. It's not very hard. And if you have a 3D printer and you want to make some of your own decorations, this is a fun little project to work on. It's not going to take very long. Now that we're kind of stuck at home, if you are stuck at home because of COVID and you can't go out and you're wondering what you should do, well, here's a little project for you to work on and have some fun. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can make something like this. Now, this particular object here is not really finished yet. I still have to paint it, but I'm going to walk you through getting the images, putting them on the platform, and then painting it and just basically making a Christmas or Hanukkah ornament / decorations that can be a lot of fun, and you can give them out as gifts as well. Anyway, if you want to know how to do this, stay tuned and I'll be right back. All right, so in order to do this project, you'll need a couple of things. First and foremost, you will need a 3D printer because this is a project where you're going to be 3D printing something. Now, any 3D printer will do. You don't need anything fancy. So if you have an Ender 3, for example, that'll do just fine. The second thing you'll need is a vector-based drawing program. For this project, I'll be using Adobe Illustrator, but you can use any program that is vector-based as long as it has the image trace function in it. Now, Adobe Illustrator is a program that you need to pay for, and if you don't have it, there is an alternative called InkScape. InkScape will do the job just fine, and it's open source and it's free. So I will put the link down below so you can download it if you need a vector-based drawing program. The third thing that you will need is a computer-aided design program. For our purposes, I'm going to be using Fusion 360. This is a program that has a free version. It's not a free program, but they do have a hobbyist version of Fusion 360. Again, you can download it by checking out the link below. You'll have to sign up on the Autodesk website in order to get it. But it's a great program, and it will do everything that we need to do in order to create these decorations. Finally, you will need a slicing program. For example, Cura is the one that I use, is the one that I'm going to be using for this project. And the slicing program is used to take the object that we will be creating in Fusion 360 and then slicing it into G-code, which we will then send to the printer for printing. So those are the things that you will need, and go get those things, and then we can begin the process of creating the object for printing. All right, so now that you have all the parts that we need to create these beautiful ornaments, the next thing that you'll need to do is find an image that's going to be suitable for this project. Now, there are a couple of things that you need to do in order to get an image that'll work. So first and foremost, you need to be careful not to get an image that's overly complicated, that's too intricate, because you just can't print that kind of an image using a 3D printer. Now, maybe if you have a resin printer, you can be a little more detailed, but with a regular FDM printer, the images that you use have to be simple, not too many lines. The lines have to be fairly thick. You need to really, really be careful with the kind of image that you get, because if you get the wrong image, you're going to have a really, really hard time making it work. So I've already found a couple of images. So if we turn to the computer, I'm going to show you the images that I'm going to use, and you can look for images yourself that are similar, and they should work just fine. All right, so here we are in Adobe Illustrator, and I'm just going to show you the images that I chose for these decorations. And what you'll see is that they are all very, very simple images. Simplicity is really important. So this is the first Christmas tree that I picked, and I like this, but it's not my favorite image. The next one is this one, and I must admit this one is going to be the one I use. I really like this image. What I like about it is the fact that there are little holes here. So these holes can be painted different colors. I guess the holes are going to be like the lights on the tree. Then I also picked a couple of Hanukkah lamps, also known as menorahs. And the first one I picked is this one. This is great, but I don't like the lines that are used here. They're a little too jarring for my taste. So even though this will work just fine, my preference is this image here, which I like because of its classic simplicity. It's just a really simple and nice image. I really like the rounded lines. So I'm going to use this image and this image for the two ornaments that we're going to create. Now, these images that I downloaded, they are bitmapped images. So this one here is a JPEG, the other one is a PNG. And what we need to do is convert the bitmapped image into a vector image. Just in case you don't know, the difference between a bitmapped image and a vector image is that the bitmap image, or it's also known as a raster image, is stored as a series of tiny dots called pixels. And any image can have millions, hundreds of thousands of pixels, and all those pixels together, when looked from far away, make up the image. Now, vector images are not based on pixel patterns, but instead they use mathematical formulas to draw lines and curves that can be combined to create an image from geometric objects such as circles and polygons. And the reason that this is important is because, unlike a bitmapped image, a vector image can be resized to any size that you want, and it will still retain its resolution. It will still be high resolution. So what we need to do here is basically convert this bitmapped image into a vector image. And luckily, there is a fantastic tool in Adobe Illustrator that will allow us to do just that. So the way you do it is by, first of all, we have to pick the image. Then we go to Object and Image Trace. And then we're going to make and expand the image. Now, you're not going to see a lot, but in that second, the bitmapped image was basically converted into a vector image. And now we can do all sorts of things with it, including resize it and save it into a format that we can bring into Fusion 360. And then we can use it in Fusion 360 to extrude the image from the base that we're going to create. Before we save it into the file type that we need to save it into, I'm just going to make the image a little bit smaller because we don't need it to be this size. So I'm going to hit the Shift and O key, and this will allow me to change the page size into something that is going to be more usable for us. And do this side. All right. And so the next thing that we need to do is very simply save it in the right file format that will allow us to bring it into Fusion 360. So let's do that. We'll go to File, Save As. And what we want to do is save it as an SVG file. An SVG type file is the only file that Fusion 360 will understand. So I've already saved a couple of SVG files. I'm going to just change the name here. Let's make it SVG4 because I've already got an SVG3 there. So we'll make it SVG4 and we'll save it. All right. So when this window comes up, you don't really have to change very much. The only thing I would suggest is that if this Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities is not checked, so I would check it. And other than that, you can just save it as is. And it should work just fine. So say OK. And now we have an SVG file saved that we can bring into Fusion 360. And that's basically all that you need to do in Adobe Illustrator. So the next thing that we're going to do is move on to Fusion 360 and create the object and then put the image on the object and extrude it. So let's do that. All right, so I created a new Fusion 360 project, and the first thing that we need to do is create the platform on which we will put the image. So the way we do this is by creating a new sketch. We'll click on that. We need to choose the plane or face on which we are going to draw the image. So I'm going to choose the X-plane here. And then because I want the platform to be round, I'm going to choose a circle. And I will go to the center point and I will make a 100mm circle. So here we go. We have a 100mm circle, but we have to convert this circle into an object. And the way we do this is by right-clicking on the circle and choosing the extrude option. And we will extrude it 2mm because 2mm is just thick enough for us to put the image on there and then extrude the image 2mm, and then we'll have a 4mm basically ornament. So now we have a platform on which we can put our image. So the way we place the image on the platform is by clicking on the platform first and then going to Insert and choosing SVG and going to the SVG file that we created. So I'm going to insert it from my computer because that's where it's located. And we are going to go to SVG, Christmas Tree 4 SVG. And there we go. We have the SVG file right here in the Christmas tree, ready to be put on the surface. Now we have to resize it somewhat because it's a bit on the big side. So let's just do that by holding those resize arrows, and we'll zoom in and we will put the tree on the platform and maybe make it a bit bigger. There we go. And we'll center it like so. Now I'm going to put a hole at the top here. So we have to leave enough room for me to put the hole there. And that's about right. Okay, there we go. So once you're ready, just hit Finish Sketch. And we can now extrude the different parts of the tree. And the way you do this is very simple. Click the Select option, and then select all the parts of the tree. So you hit Control or push down Control on your keyboard, and then you can select all the different parts of the tree. And once they're selected, you right-click, and you go to Extrude, and you extrude it by however many millimeters you want to. In this case, I'm going to choose 2. And there you have it. You have a 2 millimeter extrusion on the face of the plastic that we created. So that's basically it. Okay, now before we finish, what I want to do is put a little hole at the top here. So the way we do this is by, again, clicking the surface, and we go to Hole, or you can go to Create Hole. Doesn't matter, it's the same thing. And then you can just put a hole wherever it is that you want to. Now, clearly this hole is way too big, so you need to change the size of it. And the way you do that is by going here and changing the size of the hole. And we'll make the hole about, let's see, 4 millimeters. There we go. And let's hit click, and there is a hole. I think it's too close to the top. I want to move it down just a bit. So the way you do this is by right-clicking and going to Edit Feature. And then you can just zoom in, and you can move the hole down a bit so that it's just in the right spot. Oh, there we go. Perfect. There we go. Okay, there we go. We've got a nice hole there. So now we are basically ready to export this object as a file type that we can 3D print. We need to export this as an STL file. STL is another file type, and it stands for Standard Triangle Language. Another name for STL is stereolithography. And basically, a stereolithography file is the standard file type for 3D printing. And as I said before, an STL file is a vector type file, and it uses a series of triangles to represent the surfaces of a solid model. And basically, all CAD programs like Fusion 360 use STL files and can export STL files when you are creating an object. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to export this as an STL file. So the way we do this is by clicking on, before we do that, we should probably save this. You should save your project. So let's save it. And I am going to save it in a special place that I made, Holiday Decorations. And I'm going to call this, well, I've already got Christmas Decoration 1, so I'm going to call this Christmas Decoration 2. And I'm going to save it. And once it's saved, we can export it as an STL file. And the way you do this is by going to the top here of the chain, and you save as STL. So we'll save it as an STL file, and click OK. And it will ask you where you want to save it. We're going to save it in the same folder where I have the images. Say Save. And now we have an STL file that we can work with. Now, I've already made a few objects before, so I'm going to show them to you because those are the ones I'm actually going to print. So the Christmas decoration I've got right here. The only difference between what I just did and this one here is that I actually put Merry Christmas at the top. So I'm going to print this one. And then I already made a Hanukkah decoration, and this is what it looks like. And once again, I am just going to basically print it, and I think it looks pretty good. So let's bring these STL files into the slicer, which is Cura, and then we can print it. All right, so I'm going to import the file into Cura for slicing. There it is. And I'm just going to check the settings. This is the standard settings for the Ender 3. So I'm just going to leave that. I'll slice the object, and we can do a quick preview to see what it looks like. And it looks fine. So let's just save the file and send it to the printer. Great. Now, I use Octoprint to print all of my stuff. So I've got Octoprint open here, and I am basically going to upload the file to Octoprint, and then I'll send it to the printer. So here's the file. I'll upload it. There it is, and I am going to load and print the ornament. All right, this is for the Octolapse. So I'm going to create an Octolapse or a time lapse of the print so you can see it. I'll accept and continue. And at this point, the print should be starting, which it is. Here it is. It is printing. And we can see the temperature go up here. And the print should start momentarily. So what I'm going to do now is basically just wait for the print to happen. And once the object is printed, I will come back and I'll show you how it turned out. All right, welcome back. So I printed the Hanukkah and Christmas decorations, the ornaments, and they turned out great. However, I need to make a confession because I made a very silly mistake. I should have known better, but I just wasn't paying attention and I wasn't thinking. So I printed out the menorah, the first one, and it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. However, it's not the right menorah. Unfortunately, this menorah is not a Hanukkah menorah because if you look carefully, it only has 7 candles, and a Hanukkah menorah should have 9 candles. 8 candles for the 8 days that the miracle happened, the miracle being that the oil that was only supposed to last for a day or two actually lasted for 8 days. And then the 9th candle is the one called the shamash, which is used to light all the other candles. So I must have been very tired when I was looking for these candelabrums, and this is just the wrong one. So we're not going to use it. I took the liberty to print out another one. So this is a Hanukkah menorah. And as you can see, it has 9 candles, and it looks pretty good. It turned out quite well, and I'm very happy with it. So we're going to paint this one. Now, as far as the Christmas ornament, it looks fine as well. However, the problem with it is that the words, they didn't print out well. They're too thin. As I said before, the lines have to be relatively thick to print well. And unfortunately, the lines here were just a bit too thin for the printer, and so it didn't, in my opinion, look good enough. I mean, it's possible, can be used, but I don't like the way it looked. So I reprinted it without the words because my wife said, you don't need the words. Everybody knows it's a Christmas decoration. You don't have to say Merry Christmas. We know it's Merry Christmas. Just leave the words out. So I took her advice and I reprinted it. And this one looks very good. I also made it just a bit smaller because it was a bit too big at 100 millimeters. I reduced it to 90 millimeters and it looks perfect. So here are the two ornaments that I'm going to print, that I'm going to paint, and that's the next thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to paint these two ornaments and hopefully they'll look great and then I can put them on the tree. So I'll see you when I'm finished painting them. All right, so it took a while, but I am done. The two decorations are all ready, so now they can be used. So this is my first one, the menorah for Hanukkah, and I think it turned out pretty well. I mean, I like the colors. They're very vibrant. I just think this looks fantastic. Personally, not because I made it, I just think it looks really good. What do you think? So I like it. The Christmas tree looks pretty good as well, but I don't think it looks quite as good, primarily because the colors are not as vibrant. So these are not expensive acrylic colors. I got them from the dollar store. They're very very basic, really, I would say. So I would love for the next time to get more punchy colors. Nevertheless, it still looks quite good. I'm not unhappy with the way it turned out, and overall, I think that both of these decorations worked out very, very well. The next step is to get them on the tree. So that's what I'm going to do now, and that will be the final step of this project that actually took longer to do than I expected. So let's put them on the tree and call it a day. All right, so the decorations are done and they are hanging on the tree, and I think they look pretty good. And I guess this is the end of the video. So please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And I want to wish everybody a great holiday. Despite COVID, I hope that you are still going to have a great time. And until the next video, take care, stay safe, and be well. Bye-bye.